You ready? The one we got there. Okay. You ready? One more. The one we got there. Yes. All right.
Good afternoon, everybody.
I think we're okay.
I think you're okay. We left ICAT. I was unable to continue last week, and you were still presenting a few things. I think we're at Article 31. 30. We stopped at 30.
So you all had still some articles.
We had gone through ours, and I think you have a few left. But we're ready to start a couple other ones too, so however you want to go.
Yeah, I thought it was 31, and that's when I said, Bill Moss. Because you passed up
yeah.
the book.
Yeah, we were talking about that. The future evaluation.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. You want to start with that?
Doesn't matter. I mean, that's where we stopped. We got the books.
You got the books, it's up to you. Yep. So with Article 31, I believe we gave you just cleaned up what it would look like. So that's actual handbook. And then we also provided you the red line, which is pretty messy, obviously. But the cleaned up would show you that under section A, for the 25-26 school year, the procedures described in the evaluation handbook available on the district website will remain in full force and effect. And all of the remedy is there in section B if the evaluation process is not followed, in section C, which is the appeal process.
I mean, really, I'm repeating myself, but just in case, we're not trying to take all of that away. What we're trying to do is say right now, it's done every 3 years. It's not collaborative. We just put it in we'd like something more fluid between the union and the district through this committee, which I think works really well in all aspects that we've done. That not only would save money, we spend, like I said, $350,000 on our current evaluation system. We would be able to spend the year developing an evaluation tool that everybody was agreeable, and then we would leave the 3 pieces in the contract that you were most concerned about. We're not trying to take that away. I mean, there's no ulterior motive to that. It just really is frustrating because when we want to make a change, we can't. It's not the right time. The timing of the book makes it almost impossible to do what we're saying. And then, I mean, not to keep going back to COVID, but when we wanted to make an adjustment, it's got to go out for ratification. It really could go to a committee. They could make that adjustment. We could notify everybody and then just start off.
I would like to consider one word in the opening paragraph, and that is the word consider. I'd like to change that to utilize.
Yes, there's that should be right here. You're asking for the word evaluate to be considered?
In the all teachers will, evaluating the performance and duties and responsibilities of all teachers, and will utilize input from the appraisal advisory committee.
Section 8.
So I just have to reiterate what I think I said before. Under Florida law, the evaluation system is not subject to negotiations under 447. That is why when last time around, 3 years ago, arrived at, language that formed the committee, took input, considered that input, and then developed something that worked for this district. But it is the duty, the obligation of the superintendent and management to determine how we're evaluating personnel. That's why the language says we'll consider, not going to necessarily agree, but we'll consider, and you don't have a veto power over what the superintendent and management decides is the appropriate evaluation system. So that's why the language ended up where it is. And you're suggesting that whatever language the PCTA proposes is going to be utilized, and that's not what Florida law states.
No, I'm saying whatever the appraisal advisory committee develops as a team would be used to develop the system. I'm not saying that we make the decision, that would be ridiculous. And I would never propose that we have the ability to make.
You're saying what comes out of the committee
Would be used.
Instead of, okay. So it was under A, you said?
Yes. Say it again with the word.
81, second line, where it says will consider, it will utilize instead of.
What if there's not a consensus?
Then we work until we get a consensus.
What if there's not a consensus? What if management feels that certain components are important and the balance of the committee disagrees?
Well, you're half of the committee, I mean.
Well, half and half, what if there's no consensus? That's my concern, is the law is very clear, is this is a management right to evaluate the performance of staff.
I've never seen that happen. I've been on that committee a long time. We're working to get a tool that's useful.
I understand,
So
but we're
we don't
working
see
with
it.
words and context.
But I think that if we wrote that word in there and we made it 49% and 51, just in case there's a tie, then it becomes a non-issue when it is a management's right, but the committee does work well. I think it's gonna come out that. I mean, it can't be 50-50 and we are at a standstill forever. I mean, there would have to be some tipping point. What we're trying to do is not make it about the power, but about the collaboration. But Lori's right, if it's 50-50 and we can't come to an agreement, we have a problem. And there would have to be, I mean, instead of the committee, it could be the superintendent. You talk to the superintendent about it.
I'm actually trying to agree with you all.
I know.
As much as possible here. I really am. I'm trying to get to yes on this. And I don't think that that's a breaker. I don't think that that should be a breaker for y'all. I mean, we're gonna be using it anyway. I don't see why putting the word in there is going to be that cumbersome, that difficult.
I just think every time you look at language, you have to look at worst case scenario of what could happen. And I think she's right, if the committee can't come to an agreement, then what? There would have to be a line in here of then what, if you don't want to shift the percentage. There has to be a then what if we can't agree, and I do know you're trying to put it in there, and I mean, it's not something, to me, that is like a deal breaker of it needs to come out. It's working the way it is, but I think it could be a lot better. And that is something I did before, was an evaluation system, and we could come up with a much better tool.
I agree that we can. Absolutely.
Yeah, we had the same discussion 3 years ago when we came up with the word consider. Think of another way to address the issue, and that is in the unlikely event that there is no consensus. That's all we're focusing on, and that's what we talked about when we had open book a couple of years ago, and we came up with the consider language.
Well then, why don't we use the language you just used and go ahead and say if there is a deadline, that PCSB would have the final final word in the event of a tie. I have no problem putting
That
it.
satisfies my concern about a deadlock.
Consensus
Honestly,
instead of utilized.
no, I think that's a good idea. I mean, honestly, if the committee's working well. That's not going to happen, but she's right. I mean, in the worst case, we would have to have some point of moving forward.
And I just offered that
Yep.
to the language, so.
Yep.
Combination of what Lori said and Lee.
And
They are unable to reach a consensus. Management right would have the final say.
Absolutely,
let's do
And we
it.
know.
I'll propose some language and email it to you.
yes, absolutely.
Okay, if she emails that to you, I'm trying to get us moving along. Are we comfortable on that one, that we can check that one off, that we're in agreement if you like the language? Or does it need to come back here again?
I don't know that it needs to come back here again, but I would definitely need to,
You could always send it out
Yes.
to your team.
yes, absolutely.
Awesome,
Okay, I'll do that, send it to you.
okay. So that was 31,
Yes.
yes, all right. Well, is there anything to do there? Okay. Do you have any one that you're ready to go while we're pulling together?
We had 35. Since we're in the 30s.
Thing with the games last time.
Yeah.
Look,
That's what a shot was already. Is this different than what you gave us last time by any chance?
slightly.
Okay, all right, perfect. Let me take that back.
We cleaned up the definition of non-reappointment and non-renewal voted. So that it matched, and that's just, there is so much confusion between the two of them. That having the definition in the contract, I think, would be helpful. And then we added item D.
So talk me through 4 and 5 that you've added.
4 and 5 goes through non-reappointment and non-renewal, the difference between the two of them. Non-reappointment, the decision to not offer continued employment to an employee. As opposed to non-renewal, the decision by the district not to extend an employee's contract beyond its current term. Effectively ending employment when the existing contract expires. We use both phrases a lot. And especially last year at the end of the year, it was used a lot. There was a lot of confusion in it. So I tried to research the difference between the two of them, and I was hoping to get that added into the contract so that it would be clearer to people who are experiencing this. And so the principals, which I'm sure are trained well, but would also have it available to them so they could make the distinction between them.
So they're actually the same thing. Contract ends, a new one is presented. It's technically, you're not renewing the old contract, you're getting a new contract, same as reappointment. It's just that when we put it on the agenda, the district is appointing, the school board is appointing So we call it reappointment because you have been appointed before, but they mean the same thing and they can be used interchangeably.
How do you see them different?
I see them different, mostly simply because of the way that people are interpreting. So, when you don't offer a continued employment to, we still do have contracts out there that are multi-year contracts out there. So a non-renewal would,
Like who's a multi-year?
I'm a continuing contract teacher,
Okay,
You're continuing,
Continuing or professional
So you're
service.
professional services
so
contract.
your contract continues.
so you wouldn't be you would have to be terminated for cause, not non-renewed. I'm really trying to understand the difference, I'm not hoping, is it? How do you see them differently? I think what happens is we use them interchangeably.
And that was my difficulty, was we use them interchangeably and I was trying
They
to.
do mean the same.
Lee, would it solve that problem by stating that the terms reappointment and renewal of contracts are synonymous and interchangeable? Would that solve your problem that people, because they are. I know people use them different, they use both terms, but they mean the same thing. And would that solve the
Yeah, I
problem?
think it would, yes.
Or we just decide which term we're gonna use and try to use a term.
But we need some consistency, because there is, a vagueness with using two terms to try to do the same thing.
I mean, do you feel like that belongs in the contract to say that interchangeable?
I don't
I
think it
think-
belongs in the contract, but if it satisfies a concern and it doesn't bother us, it might help educate
It doesn't
people.
bother us.
It might educate people that they are the same thing.
I think if we go with non-reappointment as the definition that we use,
Problem that I
To use
have
both
with
of
that
them.
is we have to change the. Everyone's not necessarily going to use that term just because it's in the contract. So if the goal is to clarify for everybody. And that's the only goal, and again, I don't think it belongs in the contract, but if that satisfies you, we could say that they're interchangeable, meaning the same thing. I'm just afraid if we use reappointment, you're still gonna hear people say renewal, non-renewal. In fact, I think even in here, we use some term.
What's your definition, they put it 5. Say non-renewal slash non-reappointment, what with that definition?
That's a good idea. It would show that they're interchangeable and what the definition is.
The definition of 5 is a little.
Better, yeah.
the difference between the two of them, could it be an economic decision, or is it simply
It's just.
performance?
And in this document itself, we say appeal of non-renewal of an annual contract.
Yes,
And then we describe it as an appeal, that employee may appeal the principal's decision not to recommend the issuance of an annual contract. It's the same thing, whether it's a reappointment or.
But what I just heard you say is, do you think one of them is we're no longer funding that position, so we're just not extending your contract? You didn't do a bad job, but we no longer need that position. The other one, we're renewing it for a reason. Is
Believe-
that what you
what I'm
believe is the difference?
perceiving is the non-reappointment is considered by many people trying to save money. By many of the people out there, and it may or may not be, but perception is out there, and in the economic times that we're having, it's something I think would be better addressed than it has been. The perception is out there that non-reappointment is because we gotta save some money.
Would you suggest that you put for pause or economic, I go back to the
No.
words you said, I think that.
Yeah, change the definition.
I think, if you would like Michael's, suggestion of combination with number 5 in there, I think that's absolutely agreeable and would work fine.
Scratch.
The nice thing, let's say I'm using non-renewal as the term. my contract is non-renewed. And maybe it is for economic reasons. Then the district checks off, yes, we would reemploy them, we maintain being a reference, where when it's for cause, then that principal usually doesn't want to be a reference or something, so. I see what you're saying, I think that would clear it up a little bit, though, that they're interchangeable, it's just that the contract's ending. What happens after that is a completely different matter. Right?
So for purposes of drafting. It's kind of my thing here, we already in the contract under G. Talk about an appeal, and we say that there may be an appeal of the principal's decision not to recommend the issuance of an annual contract. That is a decision not to reappoint or to non-renew. So I would use that language to define both a non-renewal and a non-reappointment. I can work on language and send it over to you, but I don't want to have.
Oh, use the same language from G.
Yes, I wouldn't want to have something in one section that differs in a different section, so let's try to keep our definitions straight. I'll change this language, send it over if you agree.
Always a paper, trying to keep everything
Yeah.
as clear as possible.
But what we're saying is put non-reappointment / non-renewal, and then use.
And then I put it in that language, yeah. No, yeah.
So almost wherever you see non-renewal, see.
I think they were encouraging that.
Yeah.
I think they just leave it the way it is, and we need to start trying to use.
We call it non-renewal, yeah.
Okay, so I have a question in C. If we're gonna clean this up, we have the reappointments, wouldn't this be written almost backwards of what, if we were trying to clear the language here? If an annual contract is not to be recommended for reappointment, shouldn't we say?
I
if
think
there is
we just
renewal?
threw out
Yeah,
about this, wherever we're using the term, which goes to your point, that it's interchangeable, but it confuses people. Let's just clarify that they're the same thing. And then rather than calling it reappointment one place and renewal another.
just,
And we'll clarify that to one term.
to shift with one term and leave it at one term, because it does have it throughout here.
Okay,
I don't think that's gonna stop people from using it, but,
Probably not, but
I think over time it will.
Yeah,
okay,
there's,
one term or the other.
we take steps.
okay.
We added, item D under C, which, Janet just mentioned. Concerning the drop program. Chance to. Item D reads, the state of Florida and the Florida Department of Education have allowed educators in the 5th year of the DROP program, Deferred Retirement Option Program, to receive an extension of up to 3 years. If the employee requests an extension during their 5th year in DROP, that employee will automatically be approved if the employee's evaluations while in DROP are effective or highly effective. And we're trying to help the seasoned teachers that are in the programs. We already have the availability of the extension. And we're just trying to make sure that they are not being dropped capriciously. Make sure that they're not for economic reasons.
We're in that middle of the first year to 3 years of this window of time, correct? Where in a couple of years,
It's a non-issue.
will be an issue anyway, because 8 run, right?
Yes.
It's your drop, right now, this is the 3.0 that wasn't 20.
I see that as a problem, taking that away from. I mean, when you go into drop, and I know because I'm in drop. You go in there and you say, I want that day to be my last day, and you pick that day that you want to be your last day. And then 3 times they ask you, are you sure you know that because you did it? Are you sure you want that to be your last day? Are you sure you want that to be your last day? And then you sign and you effectively retire that day you're in there, so you retired when you enter drop. The state did make that extension, but we're also a declining district. And we have positions that we're starting to scale down on. And looking at that, I mean, 95% of the teachers that requested drop, as far as I've seen, have been approved. But it impacts across the board. And in administrative positions, we haven't been extending those. Because when you're declining, and I know that doesn't concern you, but they all align with each other. If I'm in a position like an administrative position and I said, and we start planning, and that's what schools do with people, the automatic extension takes that say away from the school that's planning and hiring. And so I worry about just saying it's automatic. I think the way we've been doing it is working and fair, so tell me why it should be automatic.
Again, I think we are in a declining spot right now in our employment. And I'm worried again that some people will be non-renewed, even though they were attempting to be extended, not non-renewed, but extended. For again, capricious, for personality reasons, for financial reasons. I'm just trying to protect the few people that it would be affecting while they're still here.
But it does, even when it ends, it doesn't stop them from seeking another position with another school, another FRS employer, any of those things. They would all have that same opportunity to go another 3 years. This ends, so Ms. Woodford says, when you sign that paper, and I would drop too, that I'm gonna be done on this day. That's the end of it. But it doesn't stop me if I were to do it today and Ms. Woodford says, no, I'm not extending you. If I were to ask, I'm not. But I could go somewhere else and be picked back up and still receive that benefit of 3 more years in the FRS if I was in a 5-year.
It's really taking away that right of that principal by saying automatic, and I don't know how I can do that. That's right now, the supervisor, so the principal, or the whoever else, and an ISD, whoever they report to, makes that decision to extend or not extend. And no one's saying, no, you can't approve that for financial reasons. That might be happening outside of schools, but that is not happening within the schools. The principal makes the decision.
You say you haven't been extending administrators? One. Okay.
And yeah. What we've done on some is say you can finish the year because it would be disruptive to leave. But then at the end of the year, that they've ended. We have not been extending them.
Going further down. In this in number 5 under G, appealed non-renewal of annual contract or decision not to grant annual contract. Number 5. We'd like to change the number 5, the next to last sentence. The associate superintendent for human resources will direct that the teacher remain at the school or find alternative placement. We just would like to change the word may to the word will, and the entire number 5 reads, if the recommendation, which is the subject of appeal, is determined to be appropriate the teacher shall be notified. If the recommendation is determined to be inappropriate, the Associate Superintendent for Human Resources will direct that the teacher remain at the school or may find alternative placement.
I was on the wrong page.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good on that, that's good. I mean, if there was no reason for that to occur and the appeal stands, absolutely, that's what we would do. That's right.
Right, just change the word associate to cheat sheet.
Mr. Vicky would like this correct title.
Today, that's. Right.
Okay,
And then at the end of this article, we had some changes in 5 and 6. The last page under H, length of instructional contracts. Number 5 reads, a success plan is a collaborative improvement process designed to help the teacher be more successful through feedback and supportive measures. We would like included, the plan will be developed jointly between the administration and the teacher. All success plans must be initiated a minimum of 3 weeks prior to spring break. The success plan will be in effect for the current school year. Continuing on with the language, the parties agree that district and association leadership will be quarterly or as necessary to discuss implementation and issues regarding success plans, professional development, coaching, and other topics intended to improve instructional practices. And I have been exposed to, in my last 2 years here, way too often where a success plan is not being developed collaboratively. It is being handed to the teacher. The teacher is being told to sign it. This is your success plan. You need to make sure that it works. And the lack of collaboration and success plans between administration and teachers has been very noticeable for me in the last bit. So having this language in there and having a time limit when it must be implemented. If you're an administrator and you don't know that your teacher is having difficulties in the weeks prior to spring break, then as an administrator, you're not doing your job well, because you should know when you have a teacher that's struggling that much that they need to be on a success plan. The success plan is supposed to be collaborative, and it should not be something that's thrown out there near the end of your school year.
I completely agree that the plan should be developed collaboratively. We train administrators, and I'll say as an area soup, I specifically talked to my area 2 principals about the teacher owns the plan. It's not your plan. So you shouldn't be telling the teacher how to improve. You should be saying, what can I do to support your improvement? And as the teacher says, I don't have any ideas, you can say, do you want to hear what I think you should do? But if a teacher says, number 1, I don't want a success plan, then you don't do one. And number 2, if they don't want to add things, then you don't put it in. And what they do want to add, within reason, you put into the plan. We talk about how often you should meet, because if you meet too often, you don't give the teacher enough time to really do any of the stuff. So that is the training that we provide, that it is collaborative and it is the teacher's plan. If I can't control what everybody does, and I know you have conversation and we address it, I don't have a problem with that line. I don't think my team does. No, yes,
Which one?
the first one, that it should be developed collaboratively.
That's been in there and it was negotiated to go in there. Because training is a success plan is not a compliance document. It's intended to improve performance, that's what that says. The timeline.
Well, that's the part that I should, and here's why. I have experienced myself, a teacher that's been fine, or, well, 2 scenarios, has been okay, and then for whatever reason, something happened in their life or whatever, and it went in a different direction later in the year. And I don't want to not be able to support the teacher because of when that occurs first. The second thing is, when you're a baby teacher, you often give that person grace and time to improve before you say, this is the first year, think about it. Most of us were not really great. Sometimes I look back and I think, wow.
Paddling as fast as we can.
And so, not all teachers are created equal either on your timing, so I have concern with the timing. I know you had a case last year where someone did it and then non-renewed, and I think that's soured you a little, but I think that was more isolated and we can address those. But I think putting a timeline in there really could hurt teachers, because they'd be like, oh, I can't help you because it's March. Where I do want to help you, and let's sit down and talk through that. What I can say to you is, we will make sure that we're doing the training that I just said to you for all of our principals, and that we'll address those concerns as you have them. I know Mr. Viggy will, or I will. The timeline is a problem for us, and I don't have a problem with develop jointly though, at all. And I think that is what it is intended for.
I will tell people all the time. Do you think you're perfect? No, I'm not perfect. I need help in succeeding, in becoming better at my job. I know I do. So, a success plan is not necessarily a negative thing, although it is perceived as negative, by many people. It's a way of developing you and becoming a better teacher. And we should all be striving to become better at our jobs. The problem is used quite often as a hammer instead of a lift. And that's where the language, I think, is important. Regardless of training, it's still abused as far as what happens. So I thank you for the going to that first line, and I'd like to go ahead and finish this out. And then we can finish this article. And we had one more thing.
So Lee, if I can just add, the language about quarterly meetings was added last go around 3 years ago to address those kinds of concerns, that if you're seeing it, success plans being used as a hammer, as you said, or I call it a compliance document as opposed to really a success plan. That's the purpose of those quarterly meetings. So, you know, having those and saying, this is what I'm seeing will help with the training going forward to make sure that that is reinforced, that they're collaborative. So that was added 3 years ago.
And there was one more,
Item 6, just underneath that.
if you throw in the money.
For the purpose of retention, this is a new item. For the purpose of retention, the board will pay for the fee for all instructional employees who renew their teaching certificate with the Florida Department of Education.
Like 112,000 or something. 1,500 people times $75.
Yeah, you guys had a price out.
I have it priced on your sheet, I just have to find it.
So Lee, we're not gonna put 6 in the contract, but if you want to do, or I guess Lori will say it still goes to the contract. I would do an MOU for a year on that with you. It's a financial thing. We would agree to extend it a year from the 3-year that's ending, right? I know, and we're already paying fingerprinting for every single employee in the district. This is 112,000, right?
How much?
How much?
132,000.
Oh, is that what's up there, 132?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just wanna make sure, yeah. 132,000.
I'm not putting it in the contract where we'll do it forever though.
I'll take the MOU.
There's one other thing, that we did give this to you in our packet, just under the, under F, under appeal of non-renewal, we were taking out, add a tier 1, tier 2 school, because we don't have this anymore.
Correct.
So just to.
Yeah, I didn't remove it from my.
All right.
Yeah. I
So
understand.
to recap, Lori's going to do a definition under 4 for reappoint non-renewal.
No, it's under
Under the definitions, it'll be number 4.
the 4.
Yeah, it'll be number 4, yeah. we're going
We're
to,
not agreeing to the drop,
right,
but I can show you the data of the number of extensions approved. They're not,
we're gonna,
we're gonna get rid of may and make it will on 5, you have that one?
yeah, so.
Yes. It's not.
I have, yeah, I already have that, it's in here, that's why. And we're taking out all the tier 3, tier 4 things.
So under F, or under G rather, G2, we're taking that out. G2.
Yes. Stop this stuff here.
Yes,
Yes, we're changing all the associate soups to chief officers,
I'd rather be a chief there, so.
right? We're taking out the may and putting will find. Yeah. And we're going to 5,
keep the first one.
keep the first sentence, the plan will be developed jointly between the administration and the teacher.
Yes.
Okay, and you're gonna write up something different for certificates.
So.
Oh, and can we, we'd like to change the word,
Okay, so we can include that in and just sunset at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have that. This will be.
I hate having that in the book.
But it's,
Then we're gonna have multiple things that have to go out.
so,
and I'd like one other thing, just, out of continuity's sake and for our own personal satisfaction. After the line in 5, the plan will be developed jointly between the administration and the teacher. Eliminating the rest of the articles there. The next sentence says the parties agree that district and association leadership, can we please make that union leadership? I hate to sound mean.
Lori, reading my notes, are you good?
I got them.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna get that and send that one off to you.
Lee, when these are done, so if it's okay, we'll just run over with
Sure.
them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
If you don't mind, I'd like to take a short caucus.
okay.
Want us to leave?
No, we can leave. We'll just shut off the cameras and everything.
Probably easier for us.
You can just go to your little room. Yeah. There's one from us.
Oh.
In that other room. So maybe it's a difference.
It's just that room probably doesn't have,
Is that room colder?
yeah.
I was gonna get muggy.
Wow, usually it's warmer in that room than it is in here. It's not like
Trying to do it.
Yeah, but the last time there was freezing.
You'll see me sometimes, my teeth will literally be chattering.
It still says it's 72.
It's okay.
You're just not sitting under the air conditioning.
I guess that's what it is. Okay.
There. Old dog.
I said we have to change the development to one. The new
Yes.
phrase.
Yeah, and that's
So there'll be a curve on that.
riddled throughout as well as.
Old dogs, new tricks, you have to learn.
Like after 35, is there anything that you want to? Language to bring to 36 to 50, the reason why I would say maybe we just take this document and get it prepared and we start. Where are we at, what do we need to revisit? What do we need to sign off on already, so that we can kind of clarify what we have remaining for today and future. So,
We need everything, right?
38, hang on, you have Article 38 under the was in there.
38.
Was in your yellow packet.
Oh,
Yeah.
we did pass that out to you last time.
So we'll start there and we'll
The specialized services.
get it back to the front.
It was in their folder, the specialized services. Right there.
Do you need it?
Oh, no, it's actually very complicated, right? So you don't need- Yeah, no, I don't know that.
You know, that just needs a.
Yeah, it is actually the job description.
I remember, yeah.
I don't like it, but.
So we should put up, we find.
Article 38, we have a couple of things to try to change it. It is, the last full article we actually put in the content, if I remember correctly. For our specialized clinical services. And under, item B. In the third line. We added, the phrase, and no more than 30 minutes of duty as required by Article 27. We added the phrase, and no more than 30 minutes of duty. Excuse me. So for those who do not have benefit of this. At home, specialized clinical staff members will meet with the principal to collaboratively develop and review their schedule to ensure that their schedule includes a 30-minute lunch, uninterrupted planning time, and no more than 30 minutes of duty as required by Article 27. Parties will collaboratively discuss and review the expectations for participation in activities such as duty and proctoring tests to ensure that such participation is not excessive, impeding their other responsibilities serving students. Modifications may be necessary to address student needs, and in such cases, notifications will be provided by the specialized clinical staff member to the site-based administrator. We added in the phrase, and no more than 30 minutes of duty into that section. We're having a lot of concerns from our specialized clinical service people that are being assigned duty to the point where they are unable to get some of their other things their jobs done. We use the 30-minute duty from the elementary school level of duty requirements. It is actually not specified for high school students or for high school teachers.
It's just element.
Yeah. So we were using the elementary language to help with these specialized clinical services to make sure that they're not being overly encumbered with their duty.
Don't know whether, where we'll end on that, but should we add at elementary school at the end of your of duty? In that section, B, like at elementary school, since
That's how it's stated in Article 27.
it's in 27.
It's in 27. Yeah, the problem with this is we get smaller and smaller to keep our schools safe and to have the coverage of the schools. I don't know how we, and the other problem is, I'm testing, so there's no pull-out, no kids go into, OT or any of those places. I should be able to utilize them for other things as the teachers are testing and they can't pull students. So they are gonna at some times have more, as a classroom teacher, you're testing all day. You're doing an assessment, a state assessment. None of those kids are getting services on those days because they can't pull them because you're testing. This would actually say I can't utilize those people during the day. And really, I should be able to. What we hear more from specialized services is they don't feel part of the school. It makes them more isolated. The more we say you don't have to do what every other person on that on that site has to do. So I don't see this as a piece of language that is getting where we want, because it's going to create issues for schools. What is that?
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just wondering, because I understand what you're saying, could you make an exception except for on testing days? Or in the testing cycle?
So let me push a little bit, because some of our specialized services now, because we haven't wanted to eliminate those positions, we've kept them, but they don't necessarily have full caseloads at the schools they're at.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can't utilize them to run the school, they're basically not. It's gonna force us to go down a different avenue. What we've done is utilize them in the schools in other capacities, because as we've gotten smaller, some of these groups, we have not eliminated positions. And so they're at schools and they're expected to kind of, no different than a teacher, step in where they're needed when their schedule's not full. And so my fear is that some of the people would just have blocks of time during the day for themselves. And I have some specific examples that we can talk about. I don't want to
Yeah.
be negative on some of them, but I think we have not eliminated positions at our schools of specialized services. We just haven't done that. And, we're 3,700 students down from where we were last year. And so that's where the give and take comes of what else can we utilize you for? And some of them step right in, they're doing groups and they're pulling kids and they're doing all those other things. It would be a real challenge for the district to say, all you have to do is this and you can't do duty and you can't do that. I don't think it's fair to teachers, quite honestly. They're doing it all too. For the full loads, where some of our other specialized services have very small loads, definitely needed, but they do have some small loads currently.
This actually goes along with item E, which we also have on this. Any specialized clinical staff members that have more than 3 sites will be excluded from any duty inside or outside of the instructional day.
So this person that might have 3 different schools might be at that one school, one day. And that one day, they have to schedule IEP meetings, they have to write reports, they have to email the teachers at that school. And then now they're having to do morning duty, then monitor the hallways, or afternoon duty, when that's their one day to be at that school to hold those meetings. Whatever meetings it may be. So if they're at multiple schools, this is happening in multiple schools, they need that time because they might only be at that school one day a week or 2 days a week. And then in other schools, there's other things, there are 3 sites. So it's just, you know, honoring their time and honoring the fact that they have, you know, meetings to have your parents or student or staff members, or they have to have write a report or meet with the teachers so they can write a report or things like that. And they're only at school one day, but they want, or they might have afternoon.
And so this, I'm gonna try to wrap my brain around who's at, I know we have OT at more than one's, that might be at 2 or.
Some speech language pathologists also have multiple sites. There could also be social workers.
Not at 3 sites. Right.
OT good name. And I was just thinking of like those that are under those clinical services.
It would just be social worker, psychologists.
Speech language pathologists. Especially if they're at one school that one day, when they have to have meetings, but also have more right to monitor the hall, or have to be in the cafeteria in the morning or during breakfast time. They also have meetings, they prefer to have before school or after school, so they're not stopping the services during the day. So it's just honoring their time that they're there at that one school before.
Some of us will release it all spaces. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just know sometimes we write language and then at the school level, they have to implement the language. And I think of a school that has 200 students right now, which we have some. And their staff, you know, they have a teacher or 2 teachers at a grade level and have to cover a campus. I worry about saying these extra 3 people that are on your site during that day, you can't utilize. In theory, I agree with what you're saying. In reality, I'm concerned about some of our schools being able to function okay.
But will there really be 3 people that would fall under this that would just be maybe like one person, but they're really like 3 OT and so speech that is.
That's what I'm saying is there could be, depending on their schedule, and some of those smaller schools have some of our higher needs at those schools. And so I don't want to throw out school names and you know, but we have some schools that are really small. And you know, as resources get scaled back, those people have to come in and provide services. In theory, I agree with that. I do, and I think you make a good point. I'm worried about that. I think when at all possible, that's a great thing to do. But there are going to be some schools that's a challenge. I would be open to putting something to the effect of, if possible, and I think we could encourage schools to look at your itinerants that have multiple sites. But I don't think we could just say they won't do it. I would be worried about some of our schools with coverage.
What language could we put in there that then would make it so there's that, you know, obviously for the smallest schools that you need that extra person for safety reasons? What could we put in there that would then?
I just think we put, when possible, specialized clinical staff members that have 3 or more sites will be excluded from duty inside or outside the instructional day. I mean, I know that's not a directive and that's what you want, but I think it encourages people to look at that schedule and see if you really need them on there. And I think it opens the door to have a conversation, but the school still has to function.
Trish, you wanna make a point?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking about, like, I understand completely, like, as a classroom teacher about wanting duties and everything to be fair. But one of the reasons why I think it is really important for you guys to take into consideration that duty schedule, especially with things like school psychologists and stuff, is that when we have students that have special needs and we are trying to get them the services that they need, those teachers need to be able to do the assessments on them. They need to be able to write up those reports, because until that stuff is done, you're not able to move the student through the process. And we have instances where we are trying to, like, I'm gonna be specific to my classroom last year. I had students that needed to go through that process. And it took an entire school year for those students to go through the process and finally be identified. So they were getting support from me. And while that is great that they have support in the classroom, and they're getting their tier 1, their tier 2, and their tier 3 supports, if you have a student that's going to need even more than that for ESE, but they're not being able to go through that process quicker, I think it holds it up if the school psychologist is doing duty and things.
I mean, therefore, I don't disagree.
Yeah,
I just, as we continue to shrink,
We shall be sure.
shall we? I mean, I think it was, Miami was 12,000 students. It's not a Pinellas thing, it's a state nation thing, and it is. You know, I think we have,
We do up to
5,100 kindergartners. And, we have 5,600 last year. And last year was the first year we were ever below 6,000 in kindergarten. And so you have 7,200 seniors leaving and 5,100 kindergartners come in. I mean, mathematically, you see what's happening at the schools, and I think we have to think ahead. And my experience is once it's in the book, it's not coming out easily. And so we're writing language. That's my experience. So, you know, we write language that if we don't look ahead and consider, I think we're gonna make it really hard on people after us. It won't be the group here, but it'll be after us. There might be a few babies, but yeah.
That's what I was thinking when we talked earlier about how many of us are in drop. Next up in the bucket will be a lot more interesting, a lot different. In Article 38, you agreed to put in, when possible, specialized clinical staff members.
You guys have a concern, or do you?
No, I just want to point out that this whole article was new last time around.
Yeah.
And E limited duty during the student day, so only prior to the school. So already they don't, itinerants don't have duty during the student day, giving them that opportunity to do other things, meet with people, etc. It's pre and post student day. So now we're carving that out as well.
And it's when possible, and it's you, it's not like you should do people, it's just, if they're at one school one day. It's just knowing that they have a lot to do in that one day for that one school, maybe for involved.
We can agree to when possible.
I mean, I don't think there's a lot of staff that have these students. I think it's a small number. Yeah, especially
they write it or it sends to us.
okay, when possible.
All right, so it's 38. That's okay. Wasn't even that?
It wasn't a moment before. There's.
Now,
Or those that's much on.
Sydney.
Status and sign.
What reason takes I do this?
When we bring over our stuff to you guys to get.
We'll bring it
we'll
over.
bring- All right. All right.
If we're gonna keep going through the end of this,
Thank you.
I guess we need to be looking at Article 41.
41. Do you have? Oh, you know what? We already did that. So what do you want?
There's nothing.
There's nothing to do. The pre and post, we already had fixed it, in the language. Oh, yeah, okay. See. I'm having to do different business.
Yeah, you have
Do
something?
you have something to give us?
We had presented it before.
You did?
I believe we did.
Oh my gosh, in an old book.
It's on your thing.
Oh, I know, but it's from before.
Yes.
Way cool
It's becoming.
You know, well, you just made a statement in Vanilla and said, everybody can learn, nobody's perfect, everybody can get better, no matter who we are, and now you're trying to say, but if you're old, you don't have to go to training.
No, that would be me that was saying that.
All right, so let's,
So,
I get better, I take things out of every training I go to.
you asked for,
we're not saying they don't if they want to go. We're saying that if they feel that they've already done all of these
Every
trainings.
teacher should want to get better.
Absolutely, and they can get better because they have learned so much from the previous DWT that they can then implement in their classroom to make sure that they
There's new
are.
curriculum, there's new things, there's new laws, there's new statutes.
There's all kinds of
everything that comes down
recertification.
that.
Uh,
That is a no.
And quite often there are repeats. And in my world, we've had DWTs in spring where there have been no facilitators and a room where you sat.
Well, that's a problem then with our DWT, not a problem that veterans shouldn't have to experience that, but new people should.
It is a
If we
problem.
have then I need to have that conversation with teaching and learning to improve that, but just to say, you don't have to go to training because you're a veteran, my children, they have experienced teachers, I want them going to training. I want them experienced to the newest, the latest, the everything.
And all of that's good. We're looking for some way to recognize the experienced teachers. We do recognize we lose a preponderance of our teachers before the year 10. So we know that many of these teachers have taken training through pre-service week, through the fall DWT, and many of them with their DPPs take trainings in addition to that. Matter of fact, we've been talking about the trainings and whether or not we're going to cap trainings or whether or not we're going to continue to pay for trainings. There's a lot to do with professional trainings and professional learning. But we would like to have some relief for the veteran teachers who have stayed within Pinellas County Schools to be able to spend additional time on site to be able to service the students as well. Because we can learn and learn and learn, but we also have to be able to have time to practice and be able to work within what we need for our students. So that's the reason that we put that in there, not because we don't think old people can learn, because we know that we get learning stuff all the time here.
It goes completely against being educators to say your time means you don't have to go and you watch everybody else leave because I have enough time. I just, that makes no sense to me that all our teachers shouldn't go and grow. And if anybody needs to stay back and do something, it's a first year teacher who's barely keeping their head above water, not the 10-year teacher. They know what they're doing,
I disagree with
we're
that.
all paddling.
So I do disagree with that. I think the first year teachers do need the additional learning experiences. But we know as veteran teachers that quite often we've taken these trainings that are offered repeatedly. And it makes it more difficult.
sometimes you're begging for something, as a social studies teacher, begging for something I haven't seen already that actually has something to do with my job. And quite often, there's nothing at the DWT that has to do with my job at the time.
But we roll out new curriculum at the DWT as well, and so a lot of times that's the first time people are seeing and hearing the new rollouts of that. So it's not always just something new, a lot of times it's around curriculum.
And this is giving the teachers the option of going, hey, look, there's something there I'd like to learn, and then I can go. But if it's the exact same thing I've seen for the last 3 years, then I'm gonna go and sit there and play on my computer instead of sitting in my room and trying to get the work done. Because I have been to so many trainings where I've just sat there and go, I got nothing left. You know, I don't teach European history. I teach economics. And I've got my economics course. So, and I don't need newspapers and learning, which is awesome. I love newspapers.
I will schedule a meeting with teaching and learning to talk about the concerns that you have with DWT, so we can make it better, but I'm not agreeing to that.
I said no to that. Yeah.
Oh.
We have a superintendent who's over teaching and learning. And when I had a conversation with him, we're educators. We learn, we grow. We had a really in-depth conversation about this because I think it sends the exact wrong message of you have nothing left to learn. If we need to offer more trainings or different trainings, then that's where we need to go, but not to say you don't need to go.
I think it's important to offer different trainings, absolutely. But I also think that at 10 years, you're a professional educator and you can learn on your own. I think that that's important. And again, we look for ways that we can benefit all of our members in the bargaining unit. But there's very few ways that we can recognize the continuity of a veteran teacher. And this was one of the ways that we recognize that maybe they could have a different path. And that they can do some self-sustained learning, maybe a bees training. Maybe they could follow their DPPs.
We're not saying take the day off and go to the beach.
I understand.
I mean, I could sit in my room and watch a webinar on something that actually deals with what I need to learn and improve my skills in my own classroom, as opposed to driving to, I live in South St. Pete, I used to have to drive the countryside. And instead of making the drive to sit there and go, I got nothing on the schedule, but I could be sitting in my classroom down in St. Petersburg doing a webinar on economics, doing a webinar on cost and benefits and things like that in my classroom. Nobody's saying they're going to be getting the day off. They're going to have a place where they can learn in their classroom or apply what they're learning in their classroom or what they've already learned in their classroom. This isn't a beach day. This is an alternative way of getting work done for the teachers that already know what they have and what they need. And if they can look at the program and go, oh yeah, there's some things there I could really use, then they can go to wherever the school is and make the journey. But if they don't have to make the journey, this is much more of an online environment than I grew up with, where getting in the car and driving for 40 minutes to learn something where I could be sitting in my classroom, learning the exact same thing or even better information than is presented.
Chief Jones, and let's talk about that. Maybe there's some options where we could do some virtual events. But I don't think 10 equals I don't need training. There's some 10-year teachers that really need to go to training. We have, I will schedule something for, and I think you have the experience. You're talking very specifically about yourself with Chief Jones. We can talk about how we could make it better and different. Maybe there's some virtual components we could do. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna agree to that.
Yeah, can we table this?
You can table it, but I'm not going to agree to it.
We may re-script it in another format after that meeting's held. So when that meeting's held, he can maybe put a different verbiage on it. But we still do want to recognize that they're veteran teachers that have big tenures.
I hear you, Janet.
I
I disagree with you.
I understand
I'm
that.
not signing that.
I understand your position, and I'm still standing up for the members that have made tenures. So when Lee does the meeting,
All right.
Wait, I just wanna add one more thing to that. It's great that you're talking about some virtual options, because that would help with some of the other issues too. Where there's like overcrowding at the schools, like when I were fifth grade, went to Tyrone Middle and they had to like trek across the road. So virtual options, if we could get something like that, would be good.
for a simultaneous version.
I will schedule a meeting for Lee and Elizabeth to sit down and chat.
Chief Joseph, awesome.
Chief Jones is wonderful, but I'm not signing this, even if you table it and bring it back. Is that your last one?
I did wanna, look at one thing real quick in, 46. And, the way it was presented, additional compensation for summer bridge, or I don't know if it ends at summer or some ends at bridge there.
It ends at bridge, what we, yes.
One thing I noticed, and maybe it's just because I was in the military, but the JROTC program is not a summer program, it's a year-round program. And it's in the summer program now, as a standalone.
Where's the? We didn't cross out the mouse.
Right, because they actually.
Yeah, that was my question, is how they're paid and are they paid as, what exactly, how many of them take the military salary or take the teacher salary? And why it's gonna be left in summer?
They actually, yes,
Yeah, why would that be left in the city?
I don't know, we took that out.
Virtual.
Pretty much all of them take military pay.
Yeah.
It's sort of like.
I would
Yes,
too.
yeah, they do real well.
Then why did we raise that in?
Particular reason,
Suggesting it not be.
They just remove that?
It's not summer.
It has nothing to do
Yeah,
with
so-
the article that it's
let me
there
remove
right
that,
now.
and just delete that out, yep. And then what we have left, summer bridge.
Where's all the EOP money going?
There you go. That's what.
We
What do
still,
you mean?
If we're established programs and EOPs, all this that's crossed out in.
we still have all that,
No, we're not eliminating, we're just saying that shouldn't be in the contract, because it's outside the contracted time, it's in addition and it varies.
Share the schedule of the payments.
Oh, yes, okay.
Shouldn't be the contract.
That's only because she's awesome.
So you're not eliminating.
we're not, oh, no, we
Okay.
pay, and we have a schedule of pay. For those outside things.
That's what I thought was.
And
Yes.
we always work those out.
That was just
Just
my,
have
the
how
big
long
thing,
they book.
the first thing that jumped out at me when I was looking at that.
So are you signing this one?
You guys have that, or we paid it.
Yeah, we're gonna move that.
Okay.
Yeah, my hands are dry.
So I crossed out.
Yeah, we crossed
do
all
that.
that out.
Yeah, we do it though, red line.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, good.
46. Yeah.
I will never let you say it. The only goal is your mind says you are.
Incorporate, kind of start from the top and work through and see what we want to revisit, and bring back, or what's not in there.
Yeah, we've gone through.
So what Dina put together for you, and I think she passed out, was any grade was already signed off with done. Really, 1 through 3, there's some general provisions, it's not, it's some minor language, that 14, I don't
Correct.
think much there.
Right,
4 is complete, right, stop me if you think I'm wrong, 6 is, again, contract dates afterwards. 7th, but I think the next one would be, is it 8? We closed on last time, if you wanna tackle that.
Yeah.
Probably should.
We, yeah, this was a biggie.
Okay,
So before she goes into that, it's your, is it your?
six, yeah, I have it right here.
So Dina's gonna go through what we're trying to propose to you. Okay,
All right, so
Hold
one,
on a second.
yeah,
Is there an issue with 5?
no, it needs to be six, it needs to be issue with 5. We have nothing for 5.
1 through 3, 4, 5, 1, 2.
well, because
1,
it never
3,
came
4,
up.
6.
So this is,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
right.
Yeah,
So there's some not on here because nobody had.
Some
Neither
people
side.
are a little obsessive about it.
We're gonna agree that we'll change theirs.
But as you can, yeah, to clarify, this number's, because it literally never came up at all.
All right.
So you'll see a bunch of those throughout.
Okay.
That was.
All right, all right, so what I did is I really took a look. Yes. So
Open house night.
we looked at the compassionate leave and then we revisited sick leave bank. And so I really hoped that you are going to like what we have put into the sick leave bank. We worked collaboratively with payroll because it is HR, a very small little group of HR and payroll that do all this work.
And Dan was also supposed to be at back to school night, but his boss let him work with us.
So a couple of things on sick leave bank. Almost a third of your instructional bargaining group is currently in sick leave bank. So we have those numbers. We do advertise sick leave bank through our Monday update. Matter of fact, it will be going out in September. You can find information on the sick leave bank on the intranet. So the information is there. So I know Lee, that always comes up like, how do we find that? And that's something that we added this year, not just recently, but we added this year because it does come up because we do want to encourage it. So we took your language and we looked at what we currently have at the sick leave bank and said, how can we make this more inclusive and to add more things that help our instructional bargaining unit. So
before you go through that, we, as a group, we completely like the idea of passing days to people in need, and we love it. We all sat and tried to figure out how we could do that, though, between HR and payroll, and I literally would have to hire people to do it. It's a lot more complicated, it's all manual, keeping track of it, and I know Dave would love to give us a lesson on it, because he has part palpitations when we talk about it, as does HR. Because you think about somebody who's out of time, as you're donating to them, they're earning time. And so it's this whole manual give and take of every single employee, and did they use it, when did they use it, what pay period, and I would have to hire people. However, we do like the idea of what we agree with what you're saying. So what we tried to do is look at what we currently do with what you want us to be able to do and mirror the two things.
and talk to the people that actually do the work to say, can this work and can we make this workable so that it does provide the benefit to your members? And I do say that Dave, like we've really talked about it. I brought my team together who actually processes the work.
So this, Dave's team and Dina's team came together, and this is their proposal
We all
of
had in my
merging the two.
office.
She was claiming credit for it, by the way.
No.
You couldn't see it, 'cause-
Right,
Yeah,
maybe we give
probably
you
shouldn't have.
a couple minutes to read it.
Yep.
yeah, we're definitely gonna need some time on it to go through this, but I really appreciate willing to work on it, because I think it's really important, I really do. And I'm glad that you do also, so
We do.
that's awesome.
We do. And I'll say the superintendent's not here, but he agrees completely. He's like, why wouldn't we want to support someone in a tough time? So I think this isn't exactly where you wanted, but it's definitely closer to where, you know, we worked hard on this.
Appreciate that. Appreciate you. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you too. Dina's still claiming credit, Dave.
Oh, yeah, shoot, it says 5:10.
Oh, that, I saw that too.
You saw that, thank you.
Yeah.
I've looked at it, it says 5:10 at the bottom. I've looked at it a million times, sorry.
On
I'll
number
fix that.
6.
Yeah, thank you.
Good one, you got.
For bereavement, employee is not required.
We're noticing that.
So for bereavement, the employee is not required to been without 5 weeks.
Bereavement, comma.
Comma, got it. Thank you. Yeah, and then without paid for 5, and that's what we, yeah, for bereavement, yeah, okay. We'll put a comma in there, yeah, all right.
Yes.
Are you blending bereavement into the sick leave bank? Is that? what-
Bereavement's been in there.
Okay, so
That's the only place.
It's already
it's mentioned in, yeah.
It's already in there.
That was
it's already
already
in there. I can't find where it connects up on top. And I see it on the bottom in red.
right, because it's
It's in the contract.
in the contract, yeah.
It says the parties agree to maintain sick leave bank, which teachers may place days of lost saving the event of catastrophic injury or for bereavement up to 30 in the top 3 days.
Yeah, my problem with that was always. You had to have been, and it took so long to get into the sick leave bank.
And we tried to make it easier. to get
I appreciate that, that's just why I brought it up, to begin with, so that's
And we
awesome.
think your side and our side need to do a better job. Advertising, communicating people to go in.
I pushed it every year I could because I took advantage of it when I was a fairly, well, not young teacher. I didn't start till I was 34, but when I was a new teacher, I wound up taking advantage of the sick leave bank for quite a few days. So I've been pushing it for 20 years. But I'm only one voice. How's the health of the sick leave bank at the moment? I mean, as far as number of days that are,
1,460 days.
so we're
We're
good.
okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I know, I mean, I remember before when I oversaw it, we only had to ask once in 10 years for people to donate.
So just so you know, we haven't asked for one. We had COVID.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's what, that was one of my concerns
Just
was
saying,
how firm a footing are we at even
we're
after
at
going through the
like
COVID?
1,400 days.
That is really good. If you're watching this at home, join a sick leave bank.
Well, now that we lowered the 5, I can.
Yeah, see, look.
I think the people at home that are listening should present like orally the changes, the lowering it to 5. So that they're.
1 year
aware
of employment, 5 accrued days. You have to be correct.
Correct.
Make sure people understand the earned day is.
Not the front load.
Use the 4-day pay. Those are not really earned. What do you mean?
You have to have gotten past that point in time.
So it's-
Those front loaded days are not.
Right, so a second year teacher will save 5 of their days, would be good.
Just start this new game.
Yeah.
It's a separate. People.
I
Oh, yeah, we got one.
Only that this really isn't in the contract and we can tweak it a little bit. And we want to clean up some grammar. We were working on this even today. But the rest of it, I think we had already agreed to the other items. Where's this one?
It is Article 8.
What did we already? agree
So we
to?
already had that we would change his and hers to theirs. We also agreed to under B that are entitled to 6 personal days. That's the max that we can do. We agreed to notice of intent in 1 day. And then we also agreed to bereavement leave, 1 day of paid leave will be made available for the death of a parent, spouse, or child, provided notice of documentation of death is submitted to HR within 10 days of absence. This provision will sunset on June 30th, 2026. And employees may be allowed to enter PCS properties when using sick or personal leave. Well, you have that. Would you like? No, when not. Provided the employee process site, some question, receive principal approval. Oh, principal, and they have principal approval.
So we could sign that one if we're all in agreement, and then just continue to tweak this because it's outside the contract. But I think you see what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it easier to get in and better for all our employees.
Absolutely. I am, yeah. Trying to, appreciate the work y'all put into the.
That was really was David Dina's.
She did.
And it's 5:55. Okay, absolutely. Absolutely.
You want to try to get a couple or?
I think the next thing I do is gonna take a little time, so.
So just to summarize where we're at, and we would probably start, whether you want to pick up the expert afterwards, and Tina will update the sheet. Gray across and a couple of the sign, add some language there as well.
We'll bring those out.
Bring that other stuff to the sign, and then we'll schedule for the next.
Next Tuesday, which is right after Labor Day weekend.
For how long?
Or
Until we finish?
Can we bring pizza?
Yeah, how about we
Bring
bring dinner?
pizza,
We'd appreciate that, thank you.
but we
And we
stay.
We have to still deal with some supplement clarifications.
that's what we want to do.
Yes, so
Correct. But for next Tuesday though, if you want to expand the time, it's the question. Tina said she offered the dates very fine.
The supplements are kind of like this. I mean, we're gonna get there.
We're good, absolutely. We're gonna get there.
We still have quite a few to hammer out.
Yeah, well, I have no problem with that.
are you bringing dessert too?
Or stuff. All right.
I'm ordering pizza.
I can make cake pops.
Okay.
And I think we're not on the next one of the time because it's doing school board meetings. Right.
What about morning? Oh, we can't.
No.
Oh, we could do the eats. I mean, yeah, you could TDE it.
Mine used to work at 4 a.m.
Man, it's breakfast there, so
What day it comes?
so we'll go 4 to 7 on second here. And then if it's okay, we move to here for a bit unless your spaces, because we have beautiful construction.
Yes, we witnessed that last week. It was awesome.
Just incredible.
It's a little scary.
And our place is finally back together. We actually had a memorial service in this last Saturday. One of our one of the former teachers, Marie Seacow, passed away, and her family, she was so involved in school counseling and teaching for so long. They asked if they could hold their service in here, so we cleaned it up and arranged it for them, and they were able to come in here and have their service on Saturday. It's a nice space.
Do we want to consider, just because of the time? And we can decide this on the second if you want, but we decided Tuesdays, right? We knew the ninth is gonna work as the board meeting. Unless the TDEs, or we could also go like the 10th or something, and go off by a day that next week, so that we have a weekly thing. I don't know, just throwing an idea out.
So let's talk about the 9th.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, yeah.